with that, we can move on to question 4. Question 4 reads as follows. What is meant by a perfectly competitive market? And our Janine tutor has written that a perfectly competitive market is a market structure wherein there are a high number of sellers of a particular commodity, which is homogeneous, and no particular seller can influence the price of the commodity. Sellers in a perfectly competitive market are price takers. There's no barrier to entry or exit the market for sellers in this type of market structure. The buyers of the commodity have full information of the product. Let's assume that factors of production in a perfectly competitive market are fully mobile. There is no transportation of cost occurred in this market structure. And that's an excellent answer. They touched on a lot of the things I want to touch on here. So first we will say perfect competition. So there are 6 main characteristics I like to highlight for a perfectly competitive market. First is that we have homogeneous goods, and this is probably the most important part. This means that every firm in the market is selling the exact same good. An example I usually give is if you go to the grocery store and you want to buy some mushrooms, and some mushrooms are priced at $4 and some are priced at $2, you're obviously going to buy the $2 ones because they're mushrooms and there's not really a difference by firm. I say that this is probably the most important because this is what separates it from a monopolistic competition. And monopolistic competition is almost the same as perfect condition, except the goods are differentiated. An example of that would be like the restaurant industry, where if you're selling burgers, you know, McDonald's is going to sell you a cheap version of the burger, and maybe you want to sit down and go to Works and have an expensive version of the burger. So they're selling the same thing, but they're differentiated. And as a result, you can charge different prices. B, there is free entry and exit. And what this means essentially is no barriers to entry. Barriers to entry commonly exist in a monopoly. This would prevent other firms from entering the market. So in a perfect competition, firms can freely enter and exit the market. C is perfect information. So when there is asymmetric information, inefficiencies can exist in the market. An example of perfect information is like when you call an Uber, that Uber driver can see your rating and you can see that Uber driver's ratings. So you're not worried about something going wrong in the Uber if you can see that your Uber driver has driven 2,000 people and they have a 4.9 star rating. Similarly, the Uber driver isn't worried about you messing up their car if you've been in 100 Ubers and you have a strong rating. D is that all firms are price takers. And what that means is that they have no influence over the price. Kind of going back to the mushroom example from earlier, if everybody in this market is selling their mushrooms for $2 and a new firm tries to come in and sell a $4 version of the market, nobody's going to buy it. So as a result, they have to charge market price. What else do we have here? There are many buyers and sellers. I.e., this isn't some, very niche product that there are only a few buyers and sellers of. Many buyers and sellers. And lastly, there are no transaction costs. Another thing transaction costs come up in are the Coase Theorem. And the Coase Theorem states that if property rights are assigned, you can reach an efficient outcome. However, if there are transaction costs, for example, if the two people had to get lawyers to argue over who deserved what, then it would you would no longer be able to reach an efficient outcome. So these are the characteristics of perfect competition. I'm going to draw the long run graph here. So we've got quantity on the x-axis and price on the y-axis, and price, or the demand curve, is going to be flat. And this is because all firms are price takers. We're going to have our swing and a miss. We're going to have our average total cost, and the industry as a whole is going to produce where the marginal cost equals the average total cost equals the demand. So we've got Q star here and P here. I think that's probably it in the next row. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say on that. So, say good answer, that's correct. And with that, we can move on to question 5.